So I'm gonna let you take it away and tell us about how you all did it and what happened.
Sure.
Thank
Sure.
you.
Well, thank you so much for having me today. We're so glad that our open house got such great reception from the rescue community in general. So super happy to share our successes and, what worked for us, in hopes that we can help other groups do the same. So it really was kind of just like a last minute pitch by our executive director to say, hey, like, what can we be doing that we're not doing right now? And that the missing piece was that in-person connection, which we all know during a pandemic is extremely difficult, especially for us. We're Chicago based, so in a city with pretty heavy restrictions and things like that. A lot of people aren't getting out and about and, having events or doing things. So, but we realized, that's kind of our, not a last ditch effort, but it's something that we haven't done in a while. And it's something that was feasible. So we were fortunate enough to kind of do all hands on deck and get it underway within about a week or so, to just, get some visibility out there, get people interested, get people to come in the facility, kind of see what we're about and make that human connection that we've been missing for, the last year and a half or so. So, I had like a little presentation, but there really wasn't a lot to present. Basically it was pretty scrappy in terms of, we just had the materials that we've already had readily available. And again, it was a all hands on deck call for our volunteers. Anyone that has previously been a foster, we're very fortunate to be so heavily volunteer supported. So we were able to call on some volunteers that have fostered, or even if they haven't, that were able to be dog handlers or anything of the sort, to kind of just get them involved, get the word out there, but also have that support for, an undetermined amount of people that were going to be coming in our door that day. And we chose to schedule it on a day that we had a transport from one of our Southern rescue partners, and kind of said, okay, well, let's hope that all of these dogs get to go into foster homes, as well as some cats that we pulled from our local shelter that day as well. We are foster based, so we don't keep animals in our facilities. So it was kind of pertinent that we were able to get all of those animals into foster that day. So we had high hopes, and we were optimistic about it. And we actually ran out of animals to give out. So it ended up being a really super successful event in that way. And I think a lot of us in foster-based rescue see that people don't really understand fostering or what it's about, or, how it works. And again, just making that human connection, having a conversation with somebody, and being able to, have that experience with them, I think really helped kind of bridge the gap that maybe some people were missing when it comes to fostering a pet or even adopting a pet. And I think, for us, it was a lot about onboarding fosters that same day. So we kind of had to review our orientation process to make sure it was accessible in a large format like that. Currently, we have an online onboarding application that individuals can complete in their own time. However, we made sure that we were able to kind of share it as a presentation on the day of, and just kind of mass group add a lot of our fosters that way, while making sure they still had all the same materials and that they were prepared to take an animal home that same day. So I don't know if there's any specific points that you want to chat about with this, but really it just, it was, again, like kind of thrown together, but we're actually having our next one next month,
cool.
Due to the success of it. Yeah. So it's something that we've been wanting to continue on, but obviously I think, as everyone has seen, the past couple of months have been a little bit hectic. But definitely making it a priority is a huge thing. So
totally. So 2 questions. One is about the marketing, like how did you get the word out? but also it looked like you had a whole bunch of different like activities that people could do, and how did you work the logistics of like, what people did and stuff too?
Yeah. So for marketing wise, again, it was kind of like an all hands on deck. So our development team whipped up some press releases pretty quickly and got them distributed. We have through our volunteer, we connect to them through Facebook, and we actually have what we call a virtual street team. So volunteers that live in suburban areas or areas that may not kind of see any media that's published in Chicago, we ask them to share that in their own neighborhood groups or with their friends and family. So kind of really utilize them to kind of draw in some populations that we may not have regular contact with. Especially in a city-based area, we really struggle with dogs with yards or having homes with yards or don't have other dogs in the home or can live in a low traffic area. So kind of using our volunteers to reach those groups so that we could just get them in the door, get them interested. And then on the actual day of the open house, we made sure that we had volunteers to welcome all the guests in. And then we had our different stations. So filling out an application, reviewing our foster agreement was all done with a volunteer on a computer. And then we had a large group gathering for orientation video, which ran every 15 minutes or so. And then our executive director sat in there and was able to answer any questions following the orientation video. So that was great to have that personal connection and to have someone in that leadership role also be able to kind of connect with our fosters, which I don't think is something that we regularly get to do. So I think it was a great opportunity for both her and, our fosters as well. And then we had volunteers that would walk our interested fosters or just interested parties through our facility where we had our dogs in kennels with some information about them. We had cats as well in there. We have a very small cat area, but we were able to have guests go in one at a time, see the cats, talk to our medical director who also manages our cat foster program. And again, like have that connection. And then also we had, we made some like profiles for animals that, weren't a good match to be there, but we're also needing a home and kind of a little walkthrough, a little fun, colorful walkthrough of, little fun facts about these dogs that may be looking for a specific type of home. So.
Awesome. Can you tell us a little more about the street team volunteers? Like, how does that work? It just seems like such a cool idea.
Yeah. So again, it's like very informal, very, just kind of whipped together. On our volunteer group, we kind of made a call out and said, hey, like if you are in suburban neighborhood Facebook groups, or if you live in the suburbs or have, again, like that outreach that we just don't really have a lot of connections to at this time. If we have any sort of, and even like our, northern neighborhoods in Chicago or southern neighborhoods, just kind of extending that reach a little bit. So, just put the call out for volunteers like, hey, if you see an event or if you see an animal in need, if you can share that, with your resources as well, through work or through your neighborhood or things like that. And people, it's a very easy volunteer task to do where you just click share. So a lot of people were really receptive to it and very eager to help us get that word out. So we kind of just made the call and said, hey, if you can reach XYZ neighborhood, comment here. So we got a pretty comprehensive group of people that can reach the surrounding areas. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Bobby, you had a question. Sorry, just.
Yeah, thanks, Kelly. Thanks, Shannon. This is amazing. I had a question. I saw on the Facebook post, it said, no appointments necessary. Does your organization typically provide services by appointments and this was unique, or do you normally just allow people to walk in?
Yeah, so all of our clinic is where we onboard animals into our facilities or into our program. So that's their first stop when they get to us. And especially with our transfers from shelters in the South, they all come in, but we have to make sure that we have an appointment scheduled for a person to pick up an animal pretty much sight unseen, because we don't have the facilities to house them that night. So they come in, they get their vet exam, and then we have pickup between 3 and 5. So it's really kind of, we have it laid out that way. But so this was kind of the first time we were like, yay, just feel free to come on in and see what we're about. So our adoption center has open hours where people are able to come in and out, and they can hear about our foster opportunities through there as well. But this was the first time that we were opening our veterinary clinic to the public, for just kind of like a walkabout. Typically that facility especially is close to the public. And that's kind of where the animals first get their start. Is that what you were asking?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, cool.
Other questions?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Hi, Shannon. That's super amazing. I love to hear all the pointers about your open house. I have 2 questions. Usually with the transport, like you were mentioning, how many animals were you able to find foster home for?
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. And then I'll ask the second question.
Okay, sure. So with our Southern transports, we schedule them throughout the year. And we have anywhere, from 15 to 20 animals typically on a transport coming to us. So especially with this open house and the uncertainty of who would show up, if anyone would show up, things like that. I made a plan to have foster families on deck in case an animal didn't get to go to foster through our open house. So kind of just having someone on reserves and have them readily available so that an animal still had a place to go at the end of the day. But it wasn't needed. We had, I believe, 13 dogs come in on that transport that day, and we had 5 cats, and they were all sent into foster homes with new foster families based on the open house. So definitely smaller than I would say some other group, it depends on your group, but we were able to get all of those animals into foster homes with open house parties.
So would you say that on that day, because you cleared out the transport, sorry, he wants his walk. Hunter. And I'm gonna have to put him out in a second, but would you say that on that particular transport, you recruit 13 new foster?
Yeah, so we actually recruited quite a bit more. We had just about over 120 guests that day. And through that 5-hour time period, we had 75 new foster applications come in that we were able to approve and onboard. From that, I don't have specific data of how many then went to foster an animal that didn't pick up from the open house, but we were able to get new applicants in. And then some of the guests that arrived had already filled out an application but hadn't fostered yet or something like that, and just needed to get their feet wet. So yeah, we were able to actually get just over 75 new foster applicants in. So.
Well, that's amazing. That's
Yeah.
really amazing. So for your second question, for your open house, how long does it take you to mobilize an open house like that? I mean, given that it's your first, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the next one should be a lot faster.
Yeah. So this one was definitely, the first one was definitely kind of, just kind of thrown together as quickly as possible because we had that immediate need to reach new people. And so we just mobilized that pretty quickly within about a week or so. I would say no more than 8 or 9 days before we had to host it. So obviously we learned a lot from it, for this one that's coming up now, and we have more time to plan now because, we've had it scheduled in advance. And kind of have learned, the tweaks that we need to make for the program. So, but really the first one was, we were able to just kind of get it together and have an animal sports service. So yeah, it really didn't take that much time at all. And, you know, we were really lucky that, you know, our entire staff was very supportive of the idea and kind of got on board with it quickly, as well as our volunteers. So.
Another one, then I'll go away. I know it's your first one, but what did you learn from it? Like, is there things that you would do it again? Definitely. And there are things that you may not want to try it again with your next one?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So yeah, it ended up being a little chaotic because we weren't anticipating the amount of guests that we had come through the door, which was a great problem to have, right? So just kind of not underestimating the support that we need the day of. I think that's huge. You know, I'd rather have 10 more volunteers than I need there, you know, that are happy to be doing other tasks. If, you know, sorry, my dogs are about to start playing because they like to do that when I'm on Zoom calls. So definitely, I think not underestimating yourself or your organization is a huge thing. You know, I was pretty skeptical of the turnout that we would get and was blown away by it. But definitely just having, again, like the volunteer support on board, the staff support there on that day, you know, having people for these interested parties to connect to, I think is huge. We learned that our like onboarding process day of, we learned that the onboarding process the day of was a little clunky in the sense that some people didn't really see that they needed to go fill out an application before they watched the orientation video or vice versa. So we had some missing pieces. So we were able, you know, now we're going to have a better workflow for the day of where we actually have like a very consistent, okay, you go here, this is your first step, then you come here, you know, so that we can make sure we're, you know, getting all of our ducks in a row for each applicant. So I think those were the two big things that we learned.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Awesome. Any other questions? We're good. Awesome. Thank you so much. It was super helpful, and definitely something that I feel like organizations should, you know, definitely think about trying.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having us. And again, I know a couple people have reached out through this group for more information via email, but I can throw my email in the comments as well if anyone is interested in touching base. I'm happy to share what we do have, you know, planning wise. It's not a lot, but we do have some things that I can share. So
absolutely, that'd be wonderful. And Morgan, you had a question.
Yes, I will be quick. I was just curious what the ratio is of like staff to fosters. Like how many people are managing your foster program, and is there a specific ratio of staff to fosters
for this event specifically, or just in general?
Just in general, even like once they're just out in foster care, do you have like case managers, or kind of how do you guys do that?
Sure. So we currently, since we are foster, Roger, sorry, we currently have one full-time foster coordinator, and then I, as the foster program manager, also foster coordinate. And then we have a couple other, like our shelter director actually coordinates a couple fosters. So, you know, we're kind of transitioning out of the system where everyone coordinates some animals to more of like a structured, like foster coordination team. But we currently have a cat and bunny foster coordinator. We have our medical director who also coordinates cats and bunnies. So right now we have about like 6 or 7 team members who take care of specific cases for animals. 3 of those are full-time, just foster. And then currently we have about 300 animals in our foster care program. We have recognized that we're a little bit more hands-on and accessible than some other foster programs. So our foster base really needs that connection and that constant communication. So each foster coordinator at any given time is, coordinating anywhere between 40 to 100 animals, which in the scheme of things doesn't seem like a lot, but because of like the needs of our foster families, it ends up being quite time consuming. So we're actually onboarding a new full-time coordinator next month. So we should have 4 full-time team members for animal coordination.